Hello everyone, and welcome back to another figure review. Today we're taking a look at the S.H.Figuarts Dragon Ball Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Vegito New York Comic-Con event exclusive. Wait a minute, this doesn't look quite right. There we go. Now, as I was saying, today we're taking a look at our second event exclusive Vegito. Not quite the mouthful as the 2021 Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku, but it's up there. But for your sake and my sanity, we'll be referring to this figure as the NYCC Vegito, or just Vegito Blue going forward. Please note at the time of recording this video, he is available for pre-order on P Bandai, and the link will be in the description below. So for some context, if y'all have watched my Broly review, I have made a comment that Vegito is my favorite canonical character. Yes, Broly is canon now, but I still prefer Z Broly over Super Broly, but that's neither here nor there. Unlike the Broly review, I will not be letting my favoritism get in the way of providing an informative review for y'all. So with that said, what we have here is going to be a repaint of the original premium Bandai release that has people torn into camps. Those who are excited to have another chance to pick this figure up because the original is fetching an ungodly amount on the aftermarket, and those who are just not satisfied for reasons ranging from lack of accessories, price point, and the overall look, which ranges from him being smothered in baby oil, or just not looking like his Buu Saga appearance. When I reviewed this year's event exclusive Goku, I mentioned it would take one hell of a figure to topple Goku as my #1 event exclusive of the year, and Vegito here is such a figure given his popularity, desirability, and my aforementioned bias. And while I would have really liked a Fusion Reborn Gogeta, this is still a welcomed addition for collectors. But is there enough bang for your buck to justify picking this up and dethroning the Chala Headshot Goku as the event exclusive of the year? Let's get into the review and find out. Starting with the packaging, we have an image of Vegito done in a monochromatic blue that exposes not only himself, but the aura effect piece behind him. Peeking into the display window, we can see Vegito along with the 3 extra faceplates, a few of his hands, and even his effect pieces are peeking through just enough to see them. The right side of the box continues that monochromatic image of Vegito, with the full color Inception of Vegito on display. The back side of the box gives us another look at what all comes bundled with Vegito, including his final Kamehameha, and that blue aura effect piece. The image of Vegito on the left looks to be based off of the scene where merged Zamasu and Vegito clash, and I love that. The left side of the box gives us another monochromatic image of Vegito with the name of the figure being clearly visible. Here's a quick look at the top. And bottom to round off the packaging. For the paint detail on Vegito, you're either going to love it or hate it. I'm in the camp that loves the execution. It's similar to that of all the figures we've gotten with a metallic paint job up to this point. Vegito overall is sporting a lighter color scheme to recreate the scenes from the Super anime where he's surrounded by the energy of Super Saiyan Blue. This means his outfit will have a glossier, oily look to it with pearl flake throughout to help the finish stand out under lighting. For some reason, the finish for his gi almost reminds me of a blue raspberry Dum Dum Sucker, and his whites look to have been ran through the wash along with the rest of his outfit. Remember y'all, separate your colors and use cold water. Anywho, the figure itself borrows from Goku and Vegeta respectively, as he should, seeing as he's a merged fighter of the 2 Saiyans. I would argue that Vegito reuses about 75 to 80% of Goku and Vegeta's molds, and the other 20 to 25% being unique to the figure. Yes, his V-cut is not deep enough because it's the one used off of the Saiyan raised on Earth Goku, and yes, he does reuse Vegeta's bland, outdated feet and hands. But this mold comes from what I would argue as the peak of the 2.0 era. So for its time, it worked, but now in the era of the 3.0, it's starting to show its age. But you must give Tamashii Nations credit where credit is due for keeping a figure such as this fresh, with little tweaks here and there to set it apart from the original release. Because of the desired look Tamashii Nations is aiming to recreate, his skin will be paler, much like the event exclusive Trunks. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but the faceplates this time around look so much better compared to the original, and I think that's because they had to hand paint these much like the Majin Vegeta from last year. Both Vegito and Majin Vegeta have clear plastic for their faceplates that are painted over, and that extra mile they took painting these shows, as the skin tone looks identical to the rest of the figure. And then there's the head sculpt. The hair is done in a translucent blue that's sporting a pearlescent finish to it, and like the NYCC Goku and this year's Trunks, I'm a sucker for these translucent hair sculpts and their metallic finish because under light is where they truly shine, pun intended. Now let's take a closer look at the original and event exclusive. It goes without saying that the biggest difference between these two releases is the fact that the NYCC Vegito traded out the Spirit Sword and extra hand for the effect piece for the unique aura that we see here. Now, I'm a fan of aura effect pieces. In fact, I didn't have a blue aura until now. I wasn't willing to pay $75 on the aftermarket for one, even if this one is not the exact same. As far as I'm concerned, this will do just fine. As for the finish on these figures, it's a noticeable difference for sure. The original Vegito will have your traditional feel to him with a matte finish, whereas the event exclusive will feel slicker in hand from all that baby oil. The colors for the original are going to be darker, and the NYCC version will be lighter due to the aesthetic Tamashii went for. I will add that the paint apps are better this time around, as you can see on the original that the orange didn't get a thick enough coating on the sleeves, which is definitely a QC issue. Outside of that, there really aren't any other quality control issues I would call glaring, as both figures feel solid in hand. Maybe the faceplates on the original because they aren't as snug and want to pop off when you tilt the head down, but that's a thing on a lot of these figures. I have noticed that the left foot on the NYCC Vegito tends to pop off when tilting it down or to the side, almost like it's not pegged in all the way. That's just on my copy, and I wouldn't really call that a deal breaker. It's more a nuisance than anything else, and that may not be an issue for y'all. And like with Trunks' Gallic Gun, the final Kamehameha itself will be done in a similar fashion to what we got with the event-exclusive Trunks, with it sporting the same pearlescent finish as Vegito. I've already talked a bit about what comes with the figure when comparing him to the 2020 release, but let's take a closer look. Right out of the box, Vegito is going to come with 4 faceplates in total, 10 interchangeable hands, his final Kamehameha, and a blue aura effect piece. For the faces we get, the default smirking face, a shouting face looking to our right with his bangs windswept, a teeth-gritting face looking down and to our right, and a shouting face. As far as the print work for these faces go, I believe they are an overall improvement over the original faces from the 2020 release. They are slight variations on the original sculpts, but those subtle changes make all the difference. Here's a look at those side by side. I will note that you must change out the bang piece on each face besides the one that's windswept. You can't remove it, which is a bit of a bummer, and I'm not sure why Tamashii made this decision. They should have either given us bangs on all faceplates, or let us have 2 interchangeable bang pieces like we see on the legendary Super Saiyan Son Goku. Something I've seen the community do from time to time is they'll turn the bangs upside down to make them look more dynamic. It's pretty cool. But besides the 2 fists that come attached, we get 3 Kamehameha hands, one of which has a hole to peg the final Kamehameha into, 2 splayed out hands, a hand used to choke a bitch, his Come At Me Mr. God hand, and an instant transmission hand. Again, we are missing the hand used for the Spirit Sword. If you have the original, you can use it on this Vegito, but just keep in mind that there is a noticeable difference in color. With some clever posing, you can hide that little detail. Next, we have the final Kamehameha. The biggest difference here between it and the original is that it has Pearl Flake to match this release, and it's going to have a bit of white shading on it. Lastly, the Aura effect piece. I absolutely love the execution on this, and it complements Vegito nicely, or any Super Saiyan Blue character for that matter. Again, I'm just happy to have this as I was missing a blue aura. Alright, let's get into the articulation here for Vegito. So, as I've already said, it's a 2.0 Goku with the questionable feet borrowed from the Majin Vegeta. I say Majin Vegeta because the range is nowhere near what it should be on, say, something like the Awakened Super Saiyan Blood. That one is good. Majin Vegeta suffers from the same issue that these ankles suffer from. So, let's take a closer look at Vegito and see what else is going on. Starting with the head and working our way down, Vegito is going to be on a ball hinge that allows him to look up about yay high and look down about neutral, because if you start forcing it, you're going to get some separation there. When you start using the neck peg, or the neck itself, you can get Vegito to look up fairly high, and then looking down is, again, questionable because of that separation you experience when forcing the head sculpt down further. Now, at a glance, it looks like Vegito can pivot and rotate his head around like a traditional double ball peg, excuse me. That is not the case. If you start cranking on it a little too hard, you're going to force that. And the reason why, and this also explains why he looks more lanky compared to, say, your traditional Goku, is because the head doesn't sit down on that peg that far. It snaps in perfectly, but just because of how high up that peg is, or how far down this sits, I'm getting confused. Either way, it doesn't sit down far enough to actually seat it properly to make it look more normal. That's just a thing with this figure. So, to get the most amount of range out of the figure, you're going to have to move that ball peg, or excuse me, that ball hinge where you need it. So don't go cranking on it too hard. You can get some tilt, just based off of how the head is. If it's set down further than that, you wouldn't be able to do this. But just be very careful doing that. And again, you do get some movement down here at the neck, and it's fairly solid for what it is. Not as good as the SDCC Goku, but it does the job. Anywho, enough ranting. These are going to be just like any other Goku. They peg into the back of the shoulder, and they articulate to give you better range. So you move them out of the way to get better range. See, without the shoulder piece moved, that's what that looks like. And then when you move it, you get about a little shy of 180. It's not bad. Vegito does have butterfly joints that extend out about yay far. And yes, they are skin matched. They had every chance to fix this, but it's still the same as it was on the original. So good on them for consistency, I guess. But yes, when using the butterfly joints, you're going to be able to touch the fists, almost. But to get them to come close enough together for a Kamehameha, don't utilize the butterfly joint. Instead, articulate it right there in between the bicep and the shoulder, and then it looks good. We do get an upper bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, and ball hinges for wrist pegs. So again, range of motion is limited unless that hinge is moved. Sound like a broken record. How many times I've had to say that? Anywho, for the torso, Vegito is going to be able to crunch forward about that far and lean back about that far. Be careful when crunching, because if you crunch too hard and too aggressively, you can damage it, or at least you can leave an indentation. It's not scratching the paint, but it is going to leave a mark. We do get a torso extension. That is going to allow Vegito to crunch forward that far and lean back about like so. He does have some pivot and rotation up top, which is very nice. I wouldn't crank on it side to side too hard if I were you, but it is there. And then you do get a little bit of a tilt, lean, whatever you want to call it, from the lower waist section. I just think it's limited because of the belt being made of softer material and being a lot bigger than, say, the traditional belt that you see on Goku. Although I prefer this look 10 times more, but is what it is. For the legs, Vegito is going to be able to kick out 90 degrees forward and 90 degrees back. It's very solid. Exactly what I expect from a 2.0 figure. You are going to be able to get Vegito to do the splits, albeit it's somewhat limited, and I would be careful doing the splits because, much like the chest, you can get these floating pieces here to leave marks in the gi if you're not careful. So a little greater than 45, but I'm not going to push it any more than that because you can already see if from prior articulation it's already done the damage. So we do have an upper thigh swivel. These are buttery smooth. We have double jointed knees and the questionable ankles. This one pops off. This is the one that pops off way too easy. You can get the leg, the foot to tilt down about that far. Push it back and you can get it up just a tad. Side to side is not very good. It's about like Yamcha, if we're being honest. It's not good. And then you have a toe hinge that is equally not as good. So, other than that, the figure is solid. I absolutely love it as far as how it articulates, how it feels in hand. I just hate those god-awful ankles that... I don't know. I don't know the design choice behind that. I question it. But anywho, overall, you're going to have a great time with this figure. It's going to be questionable getting to pose anything greater than just a 45-degree split, but it is doable. Let's move on to some comparisons and go from there. For the comparisons, here's the NYCC Vegito X2, the 2021 NYCC Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku, the 2022 NYCC Super Saiyan Broly, the 2024 SDCC Goku, the 2024 SDCC Trunks, and the 2024 SDCC Jiren. So for my closing thoughts on the NYCC Vegito, I think I like it a lot better than the original. Sure, he's missing his most iconic effect piece, but I think for what we get and the aesthetic Tamashii was aiming to recreate, it's fine. Yes, there are going to be folks that are mad about that, and the fact that he runs 90 USD, which is $30 more than what the original sold for back in 2020. I would honestly like to know how much it cost Tamashii to produce a figure with translucent hair, faceplates that need to be painted, and a metallic finish, because the NYCC Broly was 90 USD 2 years ago. He is a larger figure, and they had to custom make the base for the aura effect to match Broly's height. This means that costs have either gone up, or they know we'll pay for it given the fact that it's Vegito. I believe that's also the curse of these figures being web exclusives. Unlike Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, they've kinda tied their hands on this one, and any other web exclusive for that matter, which sucks. But I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But I'm not going to speculate any further than that. So let's get back to the figure. I personally believe that Tamashii took a stab at the third-party companies with this one. Sure, he's no 3.0 Vegito, but I think they are aware that people want to get their hands on this figure given how sought after he is in the S.H.Figuarts community. Plus, I mentioned that the color scheme for this Vegito was giving me Evolution Blue Vegito vibes. Outside of Fusion Reborn Gogeta, I was hoping for a Super Saiyan God or even an Evolution Blue Vegeta because Tamashii has already one-upped Demon Aqua Fitz, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku. And who knows, maybe this was their one-up. Although it's kind of lacking in substance because 3.0 Vegetos have been a thing in the aftermarket for a while now. I definitely agree that it's time that we get to the Buu Saga wave of figures and get a proper 3.0 Vegito. The third parties are starting to do laps around Tamashii, and it's not looking good. But looking to the present, my only real personal gripe with Vegito is why did he get the aura, but Trunks and Jiren didn't? I know I'm beginning to sound like a broken record, but each of the figures finished in a metallic paint job for this year's event exclusives should have come with auras to complement their looks even if it jumped them up to $90 a piece. Because I think had Vegito not come with an aura, we'd be even saltier about the whole situation. So with all that being said, should you pick this figure up? Absolutely. He's a great figure to have in hand, and I assure you that you can wait till March of 2025 to save yourself a little money. But please do not drag your feet pre-ordering it, otherwise you will be at the mercy of the aftermarket. As for those of you who do not live in an area supported by P Bandai, I fully sympathize with you, but sadly, it is what it is. My advice is to keep writing to Tamashii in a constructive manner on their social media posts, and maybe one day they'll expand their market to those not being currently serviced. Till then, if you can find a good deal on one, pick it up. As far as dethroning the Chala Head Chala Goku, I think bang for your buck, Goku is where it's at. Brand new head sculpts, a new Nimbus, and a Kid Gohan. Easily 10 out of 10. And that's going to bring us to the end of the review. I'd like to thank you, the viewer, for making it to the end. If you haven't already, kindly hit the like button and subscribe as it helps me out and keeps the channel growing. Plus, I've got other reviews up and more to come. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on this release. Do you own it, love it, or hate it? I'd love to hear it all. And as always, this has been Elite Reviews, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.